There is a massive misconception in the survival and preparedness community that most mainstream channels refuse to address. When people plan for severe emergencies, they often act as if they are building just one isolated system. In reality, you are actually building 5 distinct systems. You have a handgun on your belt, a vehicle kit in your truck, a fortified home defense position, and a pack you might have to carry for days on end. The harsh truth is that every single one of those systems pulls from the exact same logistics chain. If you choose the wrong platforms, your weapons will actively fight each other for resources, but if you choose the right ones, they will feed and support each other perfectly. Today, we are going to dive deep into a comprehensive review of the only 5 firearms genuinely worth stockpiling before a major systemic collapse. These choices are not based on internet hype, aesthetics, or range day impressiveness. They are chosen strictly because when the fragile ecosystem you rely on completely disappears, these are the platforms that will still answer for themselves. We are going to look objectively at what these guns are truly capable of when things get deadly serious, add some subjective perspectives from a practical standpoint, and discuss the financial investment required for each. Number 5. Ruger PC Carbine Tactical. Most people look at the Ruger PC Carbine Tactical and immediately judge it for what it is not. They see a pistol-caliber carbine, they compare its ballistics to full-powered rifle platforms, and they completely miss the point of its existence. This platform is not trying to be a battle rifle. It is designed to solve an integration problem that most survival conversations never even reach. Every piece of gear you add to your kit draws on the exact same pool of magazines, ammunition, and muscle memory. The fundamental question is whether your primary carbine feeds that logistical chain or drains it. Weighing in at just over 6 pounds, it is light enough for sustained carry. But its true genius lies in its modularity. The chassis collapses down to roughly 16¼ inches, meaning it is engineered to fit inside the exact same discrete bag holding your other survival gear. Let us look at the objective reality of the 9mm cartridge it fires. It is undeniably the most stockpiled pistol cartridge on Earth. It runs in more duty platforms and global logistics chains than any other round in existence. From a subjective standpoint, shooting 9mm out of a carbine is incredibly soft, allowing for rapid follow-up shots with virtually zero recoil penalty. The brilliant detail that sets the Ruger apart is its magazine compatibility. In its Glock configuration, this carbine accepts the exact same standard capacity magazines that are likely already sitting in your holster. This is not just a neat convenience feature. It is a massive strategic decision that eliminates supply chain vulnerability. You do not have to build a separate stockpile of proprietary magazines, nor are you left holding puzzle pieces that do not fit together. Objectively, the accuracy is more than sufficient, delivering sub-2-inch groups at 50 yards. Its honest, effective engagement envelope is right around 150 yards. When compared to competitors like the Kel-Tec Sub-2000, the Ruger wins by a landslide in terms of sustained build quality and magazine ecosystem. Coming in at a price point of around $700 to $800 depending on the exact configuration, it is an incredibly affordable way to unify your logistics. The integration role is completely solved here. Ruger Mini 14. The engineers who conceptualized the Mini 14 back in 1973 were answering a design brief that nobody in the consumer market was openly discussing. They were not trying to build the most technologically advanced rifle on the rack. They wanted to build a platform that could exist in the widest possible range of environments without causing those environments to react defensively against it. That is the concept of invisibility. Built on a scaled-down M14 action, this is a Gare and derived rotating bolt design that cycles the extremely common 223 Remington cartridge. Yet it does so through a visual profile that reads to nearly every casual observer as a simple ranch rifle. In periods of documented civil unrest and instability, looking unremarkable is a critical survival characteristic that no amount of tactical accessories can replicate. Objectively, the rifle weighs about 6 pounds and 9 ounces unloaded. At an overall length of 37¼ inches, it heavily projects the visual signature of a working tool rather than an offensive weapon. That distinction becomes paramount when merely being visible with a weapon creates a deadly risk. There is a reason this platform was heavily adopted by law enforcement, prison systems, and border patrol agencies across North America. It provides serious defensive capability inside low-alarm social spaces. The 18.5-inch barrel ensures the .223 cartridge maintains meaningful velocity, delivering reliable terminal ballistics out to 300 meters while keeping that non-threatening appearance. Its fixed piston gas system is objectively more forgiving than many direct impingement setups when subjected to irregular maintenance in the field. Subjectively, the trigger and ergonomics feel classic and rugged, completely devoid of the obsessive lubrication schedules required by some modern platforms. It ships standard with 20-round magazines, which fits perfectly with its philosophy. This rifle is about presence management, not laying down suppressive volume. 20 rounds of deliberate, accurate fire from a platform nobody recognized as a threat will always beat 30 rounds from something that made you a target the moment you stepped outside. Retailing generally between $1,000 and $1,200, the Mini 14 fills the invisibility role flawlessly. Number 3, Arsenal SAM-7R. Every single time a national supply chain fractures, and every time armed populations are forced to operate without institutional backing, the same historical pattern emerges. The weapons that keep running are not the most sophisticated tight-tolerance machines. They are the ones with the fewest moving parts, the most forgiving clearances, and the deepest global knowledge base for improvised repairs. The Kalashnikov pattern has dominated this exact role across more documented scenarios of instability than any other design in modern history. What Arsenal has done with the SAM-7R is take that legendary blueprint and elevate it to a standard that bridges the gap between rough field grade and actual precision, without sacrificing a single ounce of its legendary durability. The objective defining feature of the SAM-7R is its milled receiver, machined from a solid billet of steel rather than being stamped. This results in an unloaded weight of 8 pounds and 2 ounces. Subjectively, when you pick this rifle up, you immediately feel that weight. It is not a burden. It is an honest weight that communicates you are holding a tool built to outlast you, not something built just to hit a price point on a retail shelf. It is chambered in 7.62 by 39, which is essentially the argument for endurance made in physical form. This intermediate cartridge has been manufactured continuously across more borders and through more supply disruptions than almost any other round. The dimensional tolerances of both the rifle and the cartridge are engineered with the harsh reality that field use never mimics a sterile laboratory. The platform utilizes standard 30-round magazines that are so globally distributed that finding them during a collapse would be relatively straightforward. The chrome-lined, hammer-forged barrel has a service life that borders on the absurd for any non-military user. Objectively, the Bulgarian military acceptance standards require this exact barrel to function flawlessly from -40 degrees to +50 degrees Celsius. This specification is exactly why the documented malfunction rate for this platform under long-term institutional use is consistently cited at under 1%. Priced as a premium tier AK, usually around $1,900 to $2,100, the SAM-7R claims the absolute endurance role. Number 2, Springfield M1A. Imagine you are on day 4 of an evacuation scenario. The theoretical concepts of weight and comfort vanished somewhere around mile 8 of the second day. You have stopped looking at the rifle slung across your back as mere equipment. You now view it as a heavy, uncompromising commitment to a decision you made long before the crisis began. As you look out over a vast ridgeline and see a hostile situation developing at a severe distance, you will either be holding a weapon capable of reaching out to dictate that outcome, or you will be helpless. The Springfield M1A is engineered specifically for the individual who understands that distance is not just a ballistic calculation. Distance is a massive strategic advantage. This rifle is the commercial evolution of the M14, the primary battle rifle of the United States from 1959 through 1970. It has never fully left active service because virtually nothing else can replace the sheer authority it delivers at long range. The 22-inch barrel on the standard model is not there for looks. It allows the massive .308 Winchester cartridge to achieve its full velocity potential. Objectively, this translates to arriving at a target 800 yards away with enough retained kinetic energy to be definitively decisive. That is the exact range where you can still change the outcome of an engagement, translating spatial dominance directly into survival. The rifle weighs a punishing 9 pounds unloaded. Subjectively, humping this rifle through dense brush is exhausting, but that weight tames the heavy recoil of the .308 round beautifully. It utilizes a battle-proven gas system and a rotating bolt, feeding from 20-round magazines built for one singular purpose: outcome-altering precision. This platform was never intended for spraying suppressive fire. It is about ending a conflict before the threat even registers where the shot originated. 20 deliberate catastrophic impacts at 800 yards are infinitely more valuable than 30 panic shots at 200 yards. With over 60 years of continuous production, the community knowledge base for maintaining an M1A is incredibly deep, priced typically between $1,500 and $1,800. This rifle is a significant bet on a future where influencing a threat before it gets close to you is your most valuable asset. Number 1. Recce 16. Finally, we arrive at the apex of survival logistics. There is a terrifying ecosystem fact that almost nobody in the mainstream preparedness community properly addresses. Currently, there are roughly 20 million AR pattern rifles in civilian hands in the United States alone. 20 million. That staggering number means there is not a single populated county in the nation where you are more than a short drive away from a trained armorer, a pile of spare parts, or someone with a working knowledge of the system. The AR ecosystem does not just exist, it is omnipresent, overlapping everywhere simultaneously without any single point of failure. This is not a marketing gimmick. It is a documented sociological reality. Bravo Company Manufacturing, or BCM, built the Recce 16 to the exact rigorous standards demanded by professional evaluation units. Objectively, the 16-inch hammer-forged chrome-lined barrel perfectly balances terminal velocity with confined space maneuverability. It fires the 5.56x45 NATO cartridge, a round stored in domestic quantities that completely dwarf any other intermediate caliber, delivering highly effective terminal performance out to 500 meters. That is not a ballistic ceiling. That is a reliable working range, weighing an incredibly agile 6 pounds and 10 ounces unloaded. It is a joy to carry dynamically. What separates BCM from the pack is their obsessive quality control. The bolt carrier group is subjected to both high-pressure testing and magnetic particle inspection. These are not just fancy manufacturing buzzwords. They are the documented baseline procedures that separate a rifle built to anchor an ecosystem from a rifle that merely exists within it. It feeds flawlessly from the 30-round Magpul PMag, which is undeniably the most widely stocked and heavily adopted polymer detachable magazine on Earth. When you compare a BCM to a higher-priced competitor like the Daniel Defense DDM4 V7, BCM often wins out on the sheer depth of professional adoption and a decade of unyielding quality control consistency. Subjectively, a BCM feels like a tool that simply will not fail you. It holds its dimensional tolerances so tightly that if you ever need to scavenge a legitimate part from an unknown source, it will drop in and run without question. The Recce 16 is not just riding on the coattails of the AR network, it actively helped define the architecture of that standard. Coming in at a highly competitive price of around $1,300 to $1,500, it offers unparalleled value. In conclusion, true survival has absolutely nothing to do with owning the flashiest or most impressive gun. It is entirely about adopting a framework of thinking. You have to choose the right tool to fill a specific logistical, social, or tactical role long before the moment of crisis actually arrives. Whether you need the logistical harmony of a pistol-caliber carbine, the quiet invisibility of a ranch rifle, the brute endurance of a milled AK, the distant authority of a battle rifle, or the absolute ubiquity of the AR ecosystem, your choices today dictate your options tomorrow.